Welcome. My name is Dan Demers. I'm the Senior Vice President here at Technology Business Research, TBR. And I'm joined today, Allan Krans, Practice Director, Principal Analyst for Cloud and Software. Allan, you've been an analyst for a few years now.
I have.
So today we're talking about the basics of competitive intelligence, how it's used, how people execute CI, and some use cases. But really, it's kind of the basics. And then, this is what TBR is known for in many respects. So why don't you talk us through a little bit of how you look at the world of competitive intelligence?
Sure. Yeah, so I think first, competitive intelligence is not just information about your competitors. It's any information and analysis that makes your business more competitive. So that can include competitors. That's a big part of what we do. But it also includes the context of the customers, the market, the partners, the ecosystem, and the business models that really make your competitor's business run, same as your own business. And so all of those aspects are really important. And so it can be a variety of things. So there is a technical competitive intelligence going into speeds and feeds of competitor offerings. We tend not to specialize in that. There are other folks that do. So the areas that we do focus in, first it's starting with the competitor, not just understanding what their offerings are in the space, but why they're being deployed in that way, how they're being sold, what the broader strategy is for what competitive organizations are trying to do out in the market. A lot of times you can pick up specific points of data from your ongoing operations, from sales teams, from customers that you're interacting with. A lot of our analysis kind of puts together the bigger picture, gives you the why and the how for how competitors are operating in a market. And so a lot of what we do is kind of building from the financials, getting to the why and the how, and then that gives our customers a context for their own decisions. So it's not just isolated data points, it's really the whole story that they can build into their strategy. Now, the other areas that we look at, for partnerships, what are partners looking for in terms of businesses that they want to align with, invest in, develop solutions with, go to market with? All those things we can help bridge the gap between what your business is trying to do and the partners that can help orchestrate that out in the actual market. And then lastly, ongoing customer conversations are an important part of that as well, so that you can understand how, not just what your business is doing in the market, but how that's perceived in the context of other organizations, the goals that end customers have for the dollars that they're actually investing in different solutions. And so a lot of times that's an important context and wrapper for any competitive analysis that you want to do, getting back to whose dollars are actually funding these businesses.
So when you've seen competitive intelligence either inside a company for its own internal purposes or the kind of competitive intelligence we produce here at TBR, what are the use cases or applications, and then who's consuming that? Like how does that knowledge, those data fields, those qualitative insights, how does that translate into an operational use case?
Sure. A lot of the easiest use case to talk about is around go-to-market strategy. So again, the offerings are part of it. We tend to look at them from a higher level than other organizations. So it's about the messaging, the targeting within organizations, who's the right persona within your customer targets to see the value in what you're bringing to market, and how can that be positioned better in the context of the competitive environment. And again, a lot of times it's not just you, your organization, it's bringing together the right partners so that those purchase decisions are easier and more advantaged to you, so that the go-to-market there is really important. And then, the opportunities are so broad for a lot of organizations. It's a challenge of where to start. That's geographically, from a vertical perspective, from an install-based perspective, which of your competitors and peers, customers are most open to a new offering. And so it helps target and narrow that sphere of opportunity so you can be most effective, because resources are limited. It's all about prioritizing that. And so a lot of what we do is help organizations prioritize.
It reminds me, we from time to time will have clients come to us, and um, at the end of last year we had leadership from the global alliances of a major global technology vendor come to us and talk a little bit about actually those decisions that you're discussing, right? Staffing for specific partnerships. It's amazing to me how dynamic that can be. What do you see as a trend from a partnership in a go-to-market ecosystem viewpoint, and how important is it? Because we hear from folks who are in a partnership organization. Let's say I'm at Global Systems Integrator X, and every day my team sells hyperscaler Y, right? I'm at company and I talk to my partner every day.
Mm.
TBR or your competitive intelligence team may not be able to give that person inside information there, but the broader ecosystem, right? How does that impact what a person is trying to do, and how often is that changing from what you see?
Yeah, I think that comparative lens is really important to what we bring to competitive intelligence, because in a close working relationship, you're going to know that close partner very well, but you're not necessarily going to know what other organizations within that partner are doing with other providers, the type of opportunity size, the type of investment that they have. That's just not going to come up in those conversations. So taking a more holistic look at who else they're working with, which of those investments is growing faster, slower, and where those are targeted. That all gives our customers important information to put their own business in context and to evaluate ways to expand and grow outside of just the relationships that they know really well today.
Yeah, again, what I was struck by was how truly dynamic that is, even within the span of one fiscal year, quarter to quarter, first half, second half. There really is a lot of fluctuation and variation, and it really does. It seems like, and please help me understand this a little better. The overarching trend of the necessity to partner, the value and the importance of partnerships really does seem to be growing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And the number of skills needed to implement IT solutions up until 18 months ago, it was challenging. It's become even more challenging as you look at adding in new AI capabilities from vendors that you hadn't heard of up until 2 years ago. So the complexity of the landscape is really such that no single vendor can be all things and deliver every solution on their own. It's about the ecosystem and those working relationships to bring it all together so that those dollars can actually be invested, because for most customers, just looking at the complexity of the decisions and the operations that they need to support those services on a go-forward basis is overwhelming. So it's incumbent on the vendors to work together to make it easier, just as car dealerships work with credit unions to make walking out with a car very easy. Those types of things on a much more complex basis are why partnerships are important in the IT space.
It's interesting. The microcosm of the ecosystem management, it really does start to break out like classic use cases that we've always seen for years and years for the application of competitive intelligence. We often will talk about product management, marketing, product marketing, and like corporate strategy or even product strategy, and all of those contribute to the ecosystem play. You've done this for a number of years now. Can you talk a little bit about some of those more traditional applications of competitive intelligence, like with product folks or with marketing folks? How have you seen that? How have you seen that be used?
Sure. Yeah, from the product side, again, the context of what other providers are offering, some level of detail in terms of the capability, the value that is enabled by that, and that they're promoting, so that awareness of what the alternatives are in the market, with some level of customer feedback to say, what really resonates, what doesn't. So you do get kind of a fact check on, you know, the reality of some of the marketing claims. And then from the marketing side, marketing's all about storytelling. So the context of what organizations have done over the past years and months, the value that we see actually resonating with customers through our customer research, and then helping them kind of fine tune the story. It can be through webinars, white papers. Again, we're not promoting any one offering, but helping to tell the story of the value it can bring to customers, to the market, and a little bit of that comparative for how it's different, not just from a functional perspective, but also from a total solution perspective, the strength of alliances, the ways that firms are working together to create more of a solution for customers. All that is something that we can help guide in terms of the comparative view, and then tell the story in often case for why what one vendor is doing with their ecosystem is valuable.
I think lastly, and it really does start to pull all these threads together into a single story. When you think about corporate strategy, I've heard I've heard other analysts on calls with senior most executives at some of these top tier companies. Talk a little bit about, and to the degree you can share, what are some of those corporate strategic conversations, and what's the way that we at TBR, but also a company in their own right, could provide some competitive intelligence to the top tier stakeholders? What does that start to look like?
Yeah, I mean, for those stakeholders, getting a thorough understanding of what's going on today is important. So being able to compare their business, their investments to peers in the market is an important validation for them in terms of the direction that's led them to where they are today. However, we find that most important is that future-looking view. Things that combining what we're seeing in the market in terms of trends, the size of markets, the projected growth in different areas, and extrapolating, where we think your peers are going to be going, so that you're not just moving to where the market is today, you're anticipating and being able to get ahead of the opportunity as it develops in different ways. So that future-looking view is really important, and we find that there's no perfect crystal ball, but really understanding the strategy, the background, the intent with which you and your peers have invested in and competed in these markets today gives us a good, as good as any estimate for how that's going to change and evolve going forward. And those are the most valuable things for that corporate strategy stakeholder.
Well, I think that may be a great place to wrap things up. This has been a really interesting discussion about the use cases and the applications of competitive intelligence. It's certainly a story that can continue, but I want to thank you for having the time today to talk about competitive intelligence, and thank you for joining us. Today, this has been a discussion of competitive intelligence and the use cases, applications, and some key personas where we see competitive intelligence be applied to give firms an advantage in the marketplace. Allan, Krans, thank you very much for joining us. Again, my name is Dan Demers, and thanks for joining us.